What's up, folks? Justin Phillip here from Dog Times Productions, and today we're continuing the little series of cinematography lighting, building off of natural light. In today's video, I focus on the settings that I dial in on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, the settings that I prefer to shoot in when shooting dramatic or narrative work. As the series builds, you'll see we did a couple different options. I did one which is more kind of flat episodic lighting, and then the following episode will be something more interesting, more contrasty kind of look. But as always, thank you for watching, and big shout out and gigantic thank you to all of my loyal subscribers. If you haven't seen part 1 of this series, the link is down in the description below, and thanks for watching. Okay, so now we're back. Okay, so like I said, you'll see there, using the director's viewfinder on set is extremely helpful because you see there, I just went through 3 or 4 different focal lengths within a matter of seconds without having to take all the time to be swapping lenses and this and that. And usually my lenses aren't this close on set to us, so that would be a matter of me having my assistant go and run and get the lenses, waiting on that, you know, and then waiting to swap each one, and it's a big to-do, whereas you can see having the director's viewfinder actually saves you time. Anything that saves you time on set as a one-man band is a huge advantage, in my opinion. Now that my Metabones has been open all this time, see that? Just a little bit of compressed air. I even got these in my kit bag if you're looking to get a good deal on 4 of these from Amazon. You know, all this stuff, everything, I'm telling you, man, everything I use on set, I try to put it in my kit bag so you guys know just how serious I take this stuff. I mean, I know I'm not shooting on a red or an airy, but still, I like to operate as if I am. Okay, so I already know now I gotta drop this down a tad, get level with my gal. Normally what I like to do is do spot meter with a gray card to see what the actual white balance for skin tone would be. Just because with this, I like to try to make it as accurate as possible, because then in post, when shooting with raw, you can really mess with it then. But I try to capture it in camera, so I don't like to play around with white balance too much, unless there's a very specific look that I'm going for, you know? But this is kind of like episodic, so I just like to keep it more generic and just do exactly whatever the gray card gives me. So now I know I'm coming in at a 5200. Okay guys, now I'll have to tell you, like I tell my clients, don't pay attention to the framing until I say, okay, frame is up. But for now, this is not the frame. Right now I'm just dialing in all my settings, okay? So I know for skin tone, just because I want to make it exact, it's going to be 5200. 5200 Kelvin, okay? This is the Shinobi. I've done a couple videos on this. Again, leave a description, I will. Okay, so this is how I dial in my tint. So this is the multi-view display on the Shinobi. Again, I don't want to see down in the comments below what shitty framing. I'm not doing the framing just yet, okay? I'm just dialing in all my settings. So here you'll see what I did. I did this in another video. See, when I'm moving my tint around, I'm watching up here, because this is the Vectorscope, and Vectorscope is the best way to dial in for your middle line, which is gray. There's usually a line that shoots across right here in your Vectorscope, and that's middle gray for your skin tones. So what I like to do is move the tint around, and that moves my, my little blob here, and I like to get it kind of right in the center of those crosshairs, because then it's kind of nice in line, you know, as close as we can get it as possible to middle gray for skin tones. So then I have, you know, so I can start at a good base. Okay, so now I'm at 5200 Kelvin with a -8 tint, all right? I'm gonna go in here and check all my settings. I want to do Blackmagic Raw, constant quality Q0 at 4K DCI. Now, I'm doing this for multiple reasons. Constant quality Q0, because that's going to give me the highest bit rate. I don't have to worry about drop frames because I'm using a 512 gigabyte SanDisk Extreme Pro Mark II SSD. Holy shit, that was a mouthful. Okay, and I'm going to do 4K DCI because no matter what, more than likely I will always probably downscale to either Ultra HD or probably even 1080 to be honest. But if you start out at 4K DCI, you're getting the highest resolution, okay? And it's just always better for me to do that. And then like I said, I'm probably gonna be cropping in with the 235 or 185 bars. So I wanna start with the highest resolution I can possibly get. I'm gonna go over here make sure I'm recording to my external drive. I'm gonna make sure stop record if card drops frame. I definitely want that on because then I'll know if problems arise. I'm gonna leave it on film because I am shooting raw, so I don't want to burn in any LUTs. I don't monitor any LUTs within the camera because I have all my LUTs preloaded in here on the Shinobi, okay? We'll get to that in a second. My off-speed frame rate is at 60 frames, so I just leave it at that. Obviously, this is just a sitting talking head scenario, so I'm not gonna be doing any crazy slow-mo for this talking head. But it's there if I need it, okay? You see down here, I'm good on my card. Up here, I'm good at 23.98. I have 180 degree shutter. This is what I prefer. I leave it on 180 degrees. Some people call it the hipster way, but that's what I like to do because no matter what I change my frames per second to, the 180 degree shutter is gonna match it. So I don't have to worry about having to constantly adjust my shutter. You know, if, for instance, if I was in 1/48th and then I switched to my high frame rate where I jumped to 60 out, you know, now I'm in 60 frames per second high frame rate. But if I was on a 148, I'd have to go in here and change it to 120. But let's say I'm working a very heavy day and I forget to do that. Well, then I'm fucked, okay? Excuse the French. But if I leave it on 180 degree shutter, it's automatically going to adjust, okay? It's just better that way for the way I like to work. So I'm gonna turn off my high frame rate, put it back on 23.98. My ISO, like I said, I wanna shoot at the native ISO of 400. I wanna dial in my T-stop at about an f4. And there we go. You'll notice by dropping it at f4, my zebras went away. Up here I have settings set like this. My function 1 is the grid because I'm a stickler for composition. I'm kind of, I don't know. Composition is probably one of my stronger suits. And it's probably because I'm constantly worried about the thirds and all of that stuff. So that's why I have function 1 set to thirds because I don't like to do anything centered. See like this, I'm gonna change this. I'm not trying to be Wes Anderson. I'm not trying to make everything fucking centered and perfect. You know what I mean? To me, that doesn't make for a beautiful image. I like things to always be a little off, a little. Generally, I like to place the point of interest on these marks here. Generally, this one right here or this one right here. But since she's sitting, probably what I'll do in this case scenario is I'll probably see what looks more interesting. So I'll put her on this third, or I'll come over here, and because there's more interesting stuff on the right side of frame, I'm gonna put her friggin' face like right between her eyes, right there in the middle of that top third. See that? So now she's about right there. That's a tad too high for me. I'm just gonna drop it a little bit more, about right there. That's where I like her to be. Now, this is all obviously opinionated, you know? This is where, you know, the art of this thing comes in. Some DPs would be like, no, that's shit. Other people would be like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but it is what it is. This is what I would prefer to do with this specific setting on this lens size. Again, this is the mids, you know, this is the 50 mil going for the medium shot. Another thing you could do is you could, you know, drop her lower, something weird like this. But to me, now there's nothing interesting. This is weird. To me, this is off. I would want to keep my focus of her face right there. And I think that, for me, gives a nice, fair amount of other shit going on in the frame to look at. Okay, so I just always have function 1 set to my grid. Function 2, false color. So we'll get to that. Some things need to be fixed, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then my third function is my safety marks. So here you see I turn that on. And these are just safety marks so I know this shit around here, I don't even really have to worry about that. Meaning, like, if I was, like, for whatever reason framing her like this, now I would know, I'm definitely cutting the top of her head off because my safety mark is there, and obviously I'm cutting her head off because she's riding the frame, but there's also that safety mark there to just let us know what the hell's going on. So let me reframe back up where I was. Okay, cool. Hello?
What, you making YouTube videos now? You want to vlog us? What's going on?
I just want to create a network, you know, a low-budget indie filmmaker sharing tips and tricks with other low-budget indie filmmakers. That's it.